only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Welcome back to the 612 Vikings podcast. We are live this time on this nice Sunday night. I got Drew here with me, or actually is on this side, wrong side. But yeah, we thought we'd go live for tonight, talk some Vikings with you. Drew has a couple topics that we can talk about, and I'll kind of put the ball in his court. Make sure you guys go follow him on TikTok at skull.tv, and then on Twitter as well, skulltv underscore.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it
Yeah,
right.
you got it right.
And then
All right.
I'm also live on TikTok as well. Make sure you guys go over to either YouTube or Twitter and follow us at 612 Vikings. And you guys can chat, and we'll put your comments up on the screen and go from there. So,
All right, cool. I think the big one that I'm really excited to talk about is with Madden around the corner. I just posted a video on TikTok in case some of you guys have already seen it, but Madden ratings. What do we think each player would be?
oh, yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah,
We can talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah. So let's start with the quarterback room. So let's go with the projected starting quarterback and Sam Darnold. What are we kind of thinking overall wise where he would be at?
What was he last year with that? Was he like 70, like 375, something like that?
It feels about right. I would also be shocked if he was in the upper 60s either.
Yeah, that's true. Coming from, a backup in San Francisco too, you know,
Yeah.
just kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't surprise me if he was, like a 68 to 72, something like that.
hmm
But finishing the year, I could see him totally at like a 78 or, something like that too.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just depends if he's going to be the starter the whole season. But um, yeah, like there's still a lot of stuff that we could see out of him. There's some rumors saying that he's got untapped potential according to the Vikings coaching brass. So we'll see how he
Mhm.
does. And what really gets me excited about this is hoping that we can get that end of 2022 Panthers Sam Darnold, who basically almost carried that Panthers squad to the playoffs.
Yeah. And you know what also reminds me of Sam Darnold too is when he was with the Panthers and we played the Panthers, I think it was 2021, Mike
hmm
Zimmer's last year, he had that 98 drive against the Vikings to basically
hmm
put it, what was it, in overtime, basically. So,
Yeah. It was 28-20, and then they had to get the touchdown and the two to force overtime.
hmm yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't, there's a part of me that just doesn't remember Sam Darnold doing that, but, hopefully he can give us, the Vikings, some more 98-yard drives, for our team, but, we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes.
Yeah, a lot of people do forget that he was really good that like second half of that 2022 season. Like I said, it's a small sample size, it's a small, maybe 5-6 game stretch, but that next year that Panthers squad was picking number one in the draft, so there really wasn't a lot of talent around them, and they were
Mhm.
just missing the playoffs by like a game or like probably about a game, I would say, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
right. Yeah. Hopefully Sam Darnold can light it up this year. It would be nice to see him, do really well, especially with the supporting cast that he
Yeah,
has and you know.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't think it'd be anything great. I think it'd be probably normal development too for the Madden ratings for him. I wouldn't expect anything more than that. So
Yeah, no.
yeah, it'd be normal dev.
Just the normal
Uh,
stuff is fine.
yeah. So projected QB2, we got JJ McCarthy. What are we thinking that he'll be at?
Honestly, he'll probably be in the same range as well, just to be a rookie as well. It's very rare that rookie quarterbacks, will be touching the 80s,
hmm
anything like that. And with McCarthy being as polarizing as he is, too, I don't know. I don't know which way Madden will really pull him. I think he'll probably hover in the lower 70s, maybe upper 60s, maybe like a 69, 70, something like that for JJ McCarthy. But
hmm
yeah, other than that, yeah, I can't see anything too much higher than that.
Yeah, and on my most recent video I posted, I had him at 72 with star development. Obviously, he'll probably have star development because usually those first round quarterbacks will all have that hidden development in franchise mode. But I think 72 would probably be a fair range for him because I think Caleb Williams would probably be like 75 ish. And then
Mhm.
it'd probably go down one each quarterback taken after him.
Yeah, yeah, which which will be fine. If he gets that star development too, it should go up pretty quick. You know, if he does sit, I don't expect it to go up anymore at all, obviously, but just to see him go up, towards the end of the year, if he does get some snaps, would be nice. Kind of
Yeah,
rolling into Madden 26.
yeah, yeah. We got next up. Probably got like Nick Mullins. You're probably looking for me. I'm thinking probably like 60, maybe fit 61. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I would have to see what they ended last year's Madden on, just so I can gauge it off of that, because I play Madden, but I don't really pay attention
Hmm.
to the ratings too much.
Yeah, yeah.
But Nick Mullins, I think he'll probably be, around that 65, mid 60s, probably even low 60s as well.
Hmm.
I don't know if I would call him a really good backup quarterback, but he can get you through a game or two if you really need him. But other
Hmm.
than that, he's not a starting caliber quarterback. He's, that gunslinger quarterback that, the NFL just has on random
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah, what's nice about him is he does have that gunslinger mentality, which sometimes can help you win games, which you saw a little bit with Joshua Dobbs in that little 3 game
Yep.
stretch we saw. So, um, and that leaves Jaron Hall. My guess is I'd probably have him at like 59. Like it'd be like that red tier of those guys because again he's only played like what 2 games. He had one solid drive with Atlanta, and that was pretty much it out of him. And
Hmm.
then he kind of got smoked by Green Bay, but um, I would say anywhere like 58, 59 would be fair for him.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect anything more than that, really.
Yeah.
Just because, Kevin, or not Kevin said, but a lot of Vikings fans were saying, I guess Vikings personnel too, that he wasn't supposed to be starting any games. With
Hmm.
Nick Mullins, he had that back injury. He's supposed to be the starter in the Atlanta game, and just happened to be Jaron Hall, and he wasn't supposed to play. That's what it all came down to, and I think the plan was, to have him as a decent backup quarterback at some point, but definitely not, a
Hmm.
starter as he was.
Yeah, and that's fair. Um, Listen, I think with Jaron Hall, it brings that like sense of maturity in the locker room outside of just Nick Mullins and Sam Darnold, because that's kind of what I kind of like about him out of BYU. He kind of has that JJ McCarthy style of play too. Like he can scramble when needed. He doesn't have like the world beater arm, but he impresses his arm a little bit at BYU a little bit at times. But we'll see what
Yeah,
how he pops up. So.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, let's kind of stick with the star players with the rest of it. Aaron Jones, what do we kind of think about him? The new addition from the Green Bay Packers.
With that injury that he had last year, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of bumped him down a little bit, but I'd probably say around maybe highest 87 to maybe I think the lowest I would see is maybe like an 84 for Aaron Jones. Just because he is, to me personally, I think he is a top 10 running back in the league. I know he's a lot older now, or not a lot older, but he's one of the older running backs in the league, and the Packers replaced him with Josh Jacobs, a younger running back. I wasn't a huge Josh Jacobs guy, all through his professional career. I just don't think that he was, you know, the running back that a lot of people viewed him as. Just me personally, but I was always a Aaron Jones guy. I was always an Aaron Jones fan, and 84 to 87 is probably my prediction for him in Madden this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit on the other side on this one. I had him at 87 with star development to start off, just because that like what 5 game stretch he had where it's like 100 straight or 100 plus, uh, 5 straight 100+ yard games or whatever that he had to finish off the year, which is really impressive because a lot of people are starting to say he was washed. So, but to kind of see
Yeah,
them have that little stretch, it's kind of nice to see that those 2017 backs still got it.
yeah, right. Because what Delvin was in that
Hmm.
2017 draft as well, so
Yeah, it was Fournette, McCaffrey, Kamara was in there, Dalvin obviously, Aaron Jones. I think Marlon Mack was in there, and then Austin Eckler was in there as a UDFA.
Yeah,
There's,
really, really
like,
good draft for running backs for
yeah,
sure.
exactly.
In
There's
in
everyone. Joe
all the
Mixon.
rounds.
Yeah, Joe Mixon was another one too. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it was a really loaded class, and that was, like I said, it was really nice to see out of that little stretch of Aaron Jones that 2017 class can still, produce at a high level,
Hmm.
consistently.
Oh yeah, for sure. In the way that Green Bay used Aaron Jones too, uh, pass heavy back. He could run the ball north and south as well. Very,
Mhm.
very well utilized, I would say.
Yeah, and that would probably take us to our next player and our franchise guy and Justin Jefferson. What are we thinking he's going to be? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear.
Uh, I'm guessing you're talking about Justin Jefferson,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
I think they announced he would be a 99 to start.
Yeah, and I think that's fair too. And he's the most recent wide receiver, I think, to win Offensive Player of the Year, if I'm correct. So I think
I
last year
think
was
so.
McCaffrey. Yeah. Injuries kind of plagued him last year, but even playing 10 games, he still hit 1,000 yards. So that streak of 1,000 yards that Mike Evans was kind of setting, I think it might be in trouble, hopefully, with Justin Jefferson. But you
Yeah,
know, uh, we'll see how he. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, as I was saying, like he had a was it 4 straight 1,000 yard season, so we'll see how he does. And I think it would be superstar X factor as well. I'd be really floored if it wasn't.
yeah. No, I think he's gonna be that 99, obviously, and then the superstar development, stuff like that. He's gonna have that X factor. So I
Mhm.
think it's definitely well deserved for him.
Yeah, for sure. The one that I'm getting a little bit tripped up on would be Jordan Addison. I feel like that's kind of a weird one because he's coming off a year two where he produced at a high level. He had the most touchdowns, I believe, out of all the rookie wide receivers. I would say he's probably that second, third. He's not like upper tier of the rookie wide receivers last year. But what are we kind of thinking with Addison?
I could see 83 to 85 for him. He's a solid number two. I say 85 because of the type of year that he had last year, especially with Kirk going down. He had what 8 to 10 touchdowns. Just shy of 1,000 yards. So it being his rookie season, he can still build upon that. And I think he ended the year on 80 something. So 85,
Mhm.
I feel like would be pretty respectable. 83 to 85 would be my guess for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had him on my post. I had him at 83, just because I feel like that's fair enough to start the year where there's still room to grow if he does have that like true breakout season. Because he didn't hit 1,000 yards, but if he hits like 1,200 yards next year, maybe you're looking at 85, 86, 87 range. But it's respectable enough where you could still grow. But if he has that sophomore slump, he could still go down. So I think 83 with star development would probably be a fair uh, number for him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And then T.J. Hawkinson, what are we thinking about him?
I think what was he, close to a 90 in Madden last year? I think he
I
was high
believe so.
80s, about
Hmm.
90-ish. Um, yeah, I think he had a pretty good year. His catching early on was, a little bit of a struggle, but
Hmm.
um, I I'll say like 88 to 89, maybe even a 90, just
Hmm.
because he is still one of the top tight ends in the NFL as well. So I think he'll
Hmm.
probably be in that 90-ish percentile.
Yeah.
88 being the lowest. I think 90 will probably be it.
Yeah. And it's like, 'cause I know with the previous Maddens, it's like you have Kelsey, Kittle, and then Mark Andrews that were like 95 and above. Then it took a little bit of a dip. And then that's when you get like the Hawkinson, the Goddards, that kind of range, I would
Yep.
say. But like I said, I think I had him at 89, and I think he'll have superstar development, which I think is still respectable, for the fourth best tight end in the NFL in my eyes. But, you know, we'll see what he does, kind of recovers from the ACL. But I'm excited to see his recovery and see what he can bring with McCarthy next year if he
Yeah,
plays.
I think he'll be a solid tight end for him. I kind of like what Kirk said about Kyle Rudolph when Kirk first got here is it's like throwing to a mattress, and I feel like that's
Hmm.
what TJ Hawkinson is. Minus the drops, but just a big sure target that you can throw the ball to reliably and get some
Yeah.
yards and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, and what's really exciting too for Hawkinson for like if you have a dynasty league too for maybe the next couple of years is the emergence of Colston Loveland out of Michigan, that was I would say that was probably his number one target. But
Mhm.
yeah, Hawkinson being that kind of player for him, I think would do wonders for him too. So there's not a lot of schematical changes for him going from Michigan to Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, once JJ McCarthy gets plugged in there, like a lot of people say, the car is ready to drive. All you gotta do
Hmm.
is turn the keys and just go straight. And I think that's all you would really have to do. And
Hmm.
I think it'd be hard to make mistakes in this Kevin O'Connell offense as well. It is a very complex offense, but at the same time, you got those targets that will make it a little easier as well. You got JJ, you got Jordan Addison, TJ, thrown
Hmm.
to the mattress. You got a decent offensive line, so
Hmm.
it'll be, I think, pretty easy to plug them in there too.
Yeah, and if you're watching the live, don't be afraid. You can ask us questions. You can ask us who we think some other players are going to be, because I know we've left a lot of players out, still a lot to go. But what are we thinking in the comments of what some players are looking at for
Yeah,
next
those
Madden?
of you that are on TikTok as well, if you go over to um, on the YouTube channel 612 Vikings. Search for that on YouTube. We are doing the live stream edition right now. Or if you guys are on Twitter at 612 Vikings, all one word. You guys can comment and we'll put your comments on the screen. So make sure you guys go do that.
Awesome. Yeah, and another one I'm kind of interested in seeing out of the rookies. I feel like could be kind of interesting is Dallas Turner. The
Yeah.
edge out of Alabama. Um, it's weird because I feel like he's going to be so undervalued because he was what the 17th pick, I believe.
Yep.
You know, and he's the best defensive player in this draft, and it's not like he's a horrible player. He should have been a top 10 pick, and I feel like he's for sure going to be star, but I'm kind of wondering what his overall is going to be.
Yeah, it was someone that was supposed to go in the what, top 10, top
Yeah,
13, something like that. For him to fall all the way to what was it, 15, 17, something like that.
he went I think to 17. Yeah,
17. So
I think
as
so.
someone that has fallen that far, I don't know if Madden will really respect that too much, but he is a really good player. So if if that's the case, if Madden disrespects him, I could see, maybe 74, 75, somewhere around there. But if Madden gives him the respect that he deserves, I could see him being like a 78, as a max potential with that. So because he
Hmm.
he honestly could be easily an 80 overall edge rusher. So we'll
Hmm.
see when it comes out, but I want to say it'll probably be between 78 to like a 74 ish.
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm kind of looking at Dallas Turner probably at like a 75. I just don't know any rookies unless you're like a blue chip prospect like Marvin Harrison, which I don't think Dallas Turner really was coming out. A good prospect, but not that all time great prospect. So I feel like for him, I'm kind of leaning in that like 73, 74 range, but
Mhm.
but I'd probably say star development. Um, which is going to suck for franchise mode because you're going to have to constantly rotate in Dallas Turner because of Van Ginkel and Grenard always starting off your edge spots. So if you really want to
Yeah.
develop them, you're going to have to probably sit one of those guys, and it
Which
might have
which
to
is a
be
good problem to have. If you
yeah,
bench one of them, you have a really good edge rusher coming right back in off the
yeah,
bench.
yeah, for sure. And what's interesting too is Andrew Van Ginkel's like sub linebacker ability is really good in that game too. So you could play Ivan Pace, Van Ginkel, and then have Dallas Turner coming on your passing downs, and then just play as him to kind of boost up his stats a little bit.
Yeah, hell yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. What is there any other players you're kind of thinking that you're kind of curious on what their overalls would be?
Honestly, I know I'm surprised we haven't mentioned this guy yet, but Ivan Pace. I wonder what kind of leap Madden will give him for an overall, because I
Yeah,
think he ended the year in the mid 70s, something like
yeah,
that. So if he's still around that mid 70 mark, Madden doesn't seem that way, but um, realistically, I would like to see him like a 78 maybe, and then maybe itching towards that 80 overall spot. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious what you think of that too.
Yeah, I think the biggest question, I think his overall is going to stay about the same. I think he ended at like 77. So I would say like 78, 79 would be good. But I think the one that I'm wondering is he going to get that star development boost? I feel like he was the best rookie linebacker last year, and he deserves that respect. With him being a UDFA, it seems like he's still going to be undervalued, which I feel like a lot of those Vikings defensive players are going to be undervalued next year. They're
Yeah.
not the household names, but I think if they hit him with a star development, I would take a little bit of an overall decrease if he does have star development.
Oh,
But
excuse me.
oh, you're good. Um, but yeah, I think that's the big thing for me is I hope he gets that star development trait for that upcoming Madden.
Yeah, it would only be right if they did. Ivan Pace, even what's his name, Jason Kelsey, kind of gave him a cool shout out. It was either before or after the Eagles game
Hmm.
when he was talking to Travis Kelsey about, hey, watch out for Ivan Pace. He's a really good linebacker.
Hmm.
Just really underrated. Being undrafted out of Cincinnati. I think this will be his year to really show the NFL how good he really is.
Yeah, and the guy that kind of follows the draft a lot, like I do, and when he was undrafted, and I saw that the Vikings signed him, it I felt like I was on cloud nine because this was like a guy I was like, this guy should not have been undrafted. This guy was an All American, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
believe in 2022. I want to say so. But to snag an All American as a UDFA, like that doesn't happen very often, if ever. So the
Yeah.
fact that they were able to land him and recognize that they could have the ability to land him was a big home run out of Quasi in that draft class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think the only reason why he dropped and became undrafted was because of his size, his height. Other
Hmm.
than that, he's just a beast linebacker. I think any team would honestly take Ivan Pace on their team.
Oh yeah, for sure. And being in his early 20s, and there's still a lot of room for him to grow. And like I said, the biggest thing with him was his pass coverage, and I believe me personally, I was watching him play that second half of the season. His pass coverage was really locked down. I mean, he had that big clutch interception against the Raiders to kind of complete that shutout on them. So it's a lot of game. That game is something that we get memed for because we only scored 3 points, but not enough credit went to that defense to how elite they were playing and
Hmm.
stopping guys like Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, who is now a division foe. Um, but like I said, like that defense was playing lights out that entire game, which was something that I'm really excited for next year to see them play and going into 2024.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, other than that, I don't know what other defensive players to keep an eye on either for Madden ratings. I would like to see Will Riker, just kind of curious on what his rating will be. If that will probably be like a low 70s, type deal. Um, Ryan Wright,
Yeah,
I would like to see as well. Because he kind of had that down year last year, kind of see what he would be bumped down to. So I don't know. I don't know. Any other players kind of catch your eye too?
I think the last one for me might be Cam Bynum.
Bynum,
After
okay.
the breakout year he had, I think he was a normal development, was kind of looking like in the upper 70s, I believe.
Hmm. Like
Um,
78ish, yeah.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around there. Me personally, I'm a lot higher on him for this upcoming Madden. Um, I'm hoping maybe he can get like an 82, 83 with getting that star development boost. But what are you kind of thinking about that?
Yeah, I could totally see that. I think he's slowly becoming a one of like the better safeties in the NFL too. He's finally getting that respect. Had a couple clutch picks last year, in that heavy safety rotation that Brian Flores likes to do. With the three safety sets. Um, but yeah, I would love to see the Madden give the respect to Cam Bynum and be an actual like a user safety. I know a lot of
Hmm.
kids like to, use the linebackers or whatnot, but um, I
Hmm.
think I think Cam Bynum would be a perfect user safety to be as well. Bump up his speed a little bit, but other than that, I think we won't have any
Yeah,
gripes.
yeah, and I think I kind of want to finish off this. If there's anybody who's going to decrease or fall on the Madden ratings, who do we think that would be?
Decrease. I'll give you a under the radar one. Wait, no, never mind, never mind. Uh, a decrease. I would think maybe Harrison Smith. I feel like that
Yeah,
might be a underrated dunk on that one.
yeah,
Um,
that was the guy I was kind of thinking too.
and not by
He's
much either, not by much, but just a
mhm,
subtle decrease.
yeah.
Um, Other than that, not no other players really come to mind.
Yeah, I think the thing I would say would be I'm kind of looking for is he's kind of that superstar development kind of guy. Does he drop to star by any chance? But maybe give him a higher rating. Like maybe he goes from like 88, but he drops to star, or does he go to like 86 to superstar? I think that's kind of what I'm looking at him for. But
Hmm.
um,
Sam, so I'm talking to TikTok
yeah,
here.
you're good.
Sam, if you're on here, go over to YouTube 612 Vikings. We'll put all your chats up on the screen too. You can message us right over here. We might be ending soon here within 5-10 minutes, so get your chats over there and we'll put them on the screen.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any other guys who might be on the decrease watch, but I feel like if there would be one, maybe Garrett Bradbury, because I feel like he's kind of like that 78. He go to like 76, 75 just because of his injury history that he's been having the last couple of years.
I could see that. Let's see. I was gonna say Brian O'Neill, but I don't think he'll go down at all. Like, I
I
mean,
don't see him going down.
he suffered that injury 2 years ago now, but
Hmm.
other than that, yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, I think that was a couple years ago now. Um, I think Ed Ingram is only gonna go up to. He's only gotten slightly better, but not by much. But he's getting
Hmm.
there. He's getting there.
Yeah.
Um, Ty Chandler, I think, will probably go up. Uh, CJ Ham maybe because of his usage. I don't know if he might go. If he, I think he might be the same, if anything.
Yeah.
Um, Nick Mullins might go down. He didn't win that many games last year through a couple picks.
Yeah, but I feel like he would still stay roughly the same because again, he did throw for 400 yards, like 4 touchdowns, and yet granted he threw a lot of picks, but
Yeah,
he was still slinging the ball over the yard, which is basically what he was in San Francisco early on in his career. But
right.
um, so I don't think there's a lot of guys that are like on that like decrease watch just because the fact like they are such a young team and they are like steadily improving each and every year.
Hmm.
Like Lacey was saying, there's the retool that he's been going on and just kind of plugging and playing guys that are younger on the roster. Um, but
Yeah.
we'll see what he does.
I guess I don't know if you've gone to this yet or we're planning on to, but team overall. What do you think the team overall is gonna be?
I believe what they were like 82 or so last year.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, if I had to put money on, I'm gonna say 79, 78, just because the fact that like they have that young quarterback, they're not really a proven team, but they have like a good structured roster around them. But this is assuming like Carolina would be like a 74, 73 maybe, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that's kind of a fair rating. Like I would say like anything average is what I'm kind of hoping for this year out of this year's Madden for the Vikings because I feel like they're kind of seen as like that average team even with Kirk. I'm just hoping like they can maintain that to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably expect something low and just kind of, if it's higher than that, awesome. But yeah, expect
Mhm.
something low so far. So, how do you
Uh,
feel about the O line so far? I mean, it's trending up. It's definitely trending up. I like our offensive line right now. If anything, I'd probably upgrade center and right guard. But Bradbury's been holding down his own. Ingram, I guess, has been doing the same. Like I said earlier, slowly but steadily increasing. You got two solid tackles, Darisaw and O'Neal. So, I mean, there's
mhm.
really, you can't pick too many gripes off of that.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of different for this O line and like years past is I feel like there's a lot more depth this year. I really like the Walter Rouse pick. I feel like that could be a good swing tackle for the Vikings with, the Darisaw injury history that he's been kind of having, kind of struggling to put a complete season together. I feel like we might see Walter Rouse a couple games. But if I had to improve a position, I'd probably have to say guard. Um,
Hmm.
we don't really have that true franchise guard yet. I know those are hard to find; they don't grow on trees. But if we had to improve something offensively, it would definitely be the interior.
Yeah, I feel like center might be our biggest upgrade. I mean, it's not too much of an upgrade, but just a bigger center. Because guys like
Hmm.
Kenny Clark and, excuse me, just those bigger defensive linemen will always get past. Or who was it on the Giants?
Dexter Lawrence.
Lawrence. In that playoff game, he bullied Bradbury around, and it resulted in practically the game losing play ultimately because
Hmm.
Bradbury got pushed back. Kirk had nothing else to do except dump it off, and he's either dump it off or take a sack, and
Yeah.
that's what it was. And yeah, you can lob it up to Jefferson, but that's a whole nother podcast episode in itself. But it's just the little plays like that where Bradbury just kind of gets worked back, and it's not ideal as a center. As the center, you want to snap the ball, hold down the fort, in the middle. You're really conducting the middle of the field, and keeping a clean pocket for quarterback X.
Yeah, and that's fair. Um, be about kicker. Uh,
Kicker, starting rookie kicker. Oh yeah, Will
yeah.
Riker. He'll probably most likely be the starter. You got Will Riker. You got Andrew DePaula as your long snapper, and then punter. That'll be interesting. Ryan Wright's had some struggles last year. Hasn't been super consistent. They brought in Seth Vernon. He doesn't look like a punter. He looks like a freaking linebacker. So that'll be a fun position to watch as well. I mean, it's just punter, but still,
Hmm.
we might have a new punter going into the 2024 season.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that in our last episode. With there was a punter competition, but punters I feel like get a lot of disrespect too because there's a lot more job than just punting the football. They also got to hold the ball, and
Yep.
Vikings fans know all too well about how a quality holder can make or break a kicker. Going back to Blair
Laces
Walsh.
out.
Yep, exactly, exactly. With Blair Walsh, what's his name? Matt
Jeff Locke.
Weil. Yeah, Jeff Locke, and then Matt Wiley, I think was his name from like
Yep.
that 2018 with Dan Bailey. Kind of struggled that year, and then they got was it Britton Colquitt, and then kind of changed the game for him. In that 2019 season, looked like Dan Bailey was going to be a Pro Bowl caliber kicker, and then obviously nothing really else happened after that. But um, I think with building around Will Reichert on the special teams is definitely the future of this team, and I really liked Will Reichert. I know some Vikings fans kind of had some mixed opinions on that, saying that we don't want to draft a kicker, but history has shown if you want the top of the top, cream of the crop kickers, you got to draft them.
Yep.
Obviously there's some you're like Koo and Tucker that were undrafted, but we look at the top guys like McPherson and Carlson and Butker, those kinds of kickers. Those guys are all drafted. So
Yep.
I was really a fan of this pick, and I'm really excited to see how well Riker does in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. And we got one more from Sam here too.
Mhm.
Walk through the wide receivers. Obviously, I know wide receiver 1 and 2, but Powell is our number 3. What about tight ends to start the season? So, wide receiver 3, that's going to be a position battle. I think it'll probably be Brandon Powell. I would personally like to see an upgrade though from Brandon Powell, someone just a little better than him. I mean, he filled in quite nicely last year. Couple clutch catches and first downs, touchdowns, stuff like that. Notably against Atlanta to win the game. But tight ends, Hawkinson most likely will miss the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. And, you got Oliver, you got Munt, you got N'Keal Harry, a new tight end, from wide receiver. And what's his name? Robert Tunyon as well. So
Mhm.
a crowded tight end room. It'll be interesting to see that position battle as well. Um, so I don't know. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts on wide receiver 3 and tight ends?
Wide receiver 3, I'll go with a little bit of a different one, maybe a little under the radar guy. Maybe not my personal pick, but a guy that should be mentioned is Trent Sherfield.
Yeah.
I feel like he could be a guy that can kind of challenge for that wide receiver 3 spot. He's a good run blocker, kind of help out Aaron Jones on the stretch plays. And then tight end, where I would say Josh Oliver would probably be their tight end one to start the year. Looks like Cox would probably start on the pup, um, or the PUP list. But after that, you got Tanyan, you got Munt, and it's also possible Nicky Muse. I just saw he's actually injured, but he could start on the pup as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and they really like Nick Muse. They really like Johnny Munn. So I don't know if they necessarily cut them. Maybe Muse goes to the practice squad like years prior, but other
mhm.
than that, you're gonna have Oliver probably as your tight end one, Munn as your tight end two, and then a mix between N'Keal Harry if he plays well in training camp and preseason as in his new position at tight end. Otherwise, you got the veteran in Robert
Tanyan.
Tunyon. So I think it'll be a fun position to watch as well, kind of a sneaky position. Just for depth wise, once TJ comes back, it's going to be Hawkinson, Oliver, Munt, with a little bit of rotation as well. But those will be your three main starters.
Yeah, and I think what's good about this too is, for the upcoming preseason, we'll see some JJ McCarthy, but to kind of get him that confidence early on, against these, NFL caliber guys, it's nice to have some weapons around him that'll actually help him out and make things a little bit easier, kind of start that confidence early on.
Yep. We got a comment from TikTok from Joe that says, "Can Sam Darnold be a Jeff George?"
Um, I mean, anything's possible, right? We've seen the last 2 years. We saw it with Gino. We saw it with Baker. We even saw it in our own with Case Keenum. So anything could happen. Sam Darnold definitely has the talent. You don't get drafted in the top, what, three for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he could. I mean, he very well could, and I think that'd be the best case scenario for them. But I'm going to add a little bit of a twist to that question too. Is if Sam Darnold, say he throws like 15 touchdowns, maybe like 7 picks, does he become a trade candidate at the trade deadline?
Depends on how McCarthy's doing, behind the scenes. If he's
Hmm.
still not ready quite yet, I don't think it happens. But if they think that he's ready, even then, I still see Darnold still being like QB1. It's just a 1 year, $10 million deal.
Hmm.
That's really nothing when quarterbacks are getting paid 45, $50 million now. You got a really cheap quarterback. And, like I said, it depends on McCarthy's development, how he's doing behind the scenes. If that were to happen, he would really have to work, super hard. And I think McCarthy would be a candidate to start the season if that were the case too, if he were to be
Hmm.
progressing well in the off season. So
Yeah.
it could go either way, to be honest.
Yeah. I think it's possible, but I think it'd have to be like the right scenario. I feel like it'd have to be like if the Vikings aren't winning, maybe they're like 2-5 or something like that. But I just don't know how the team would start 2-5 with Sam Darnold being good. And the defense is definitely something that's an improvement. So something would have to be, going wrong, and I don't know if that would be on Sam Darnold then.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's like you said, it's gonna have to be a certain scenario for
Yeah.
Darnold to be a traded and McCarthy to be put into the fire like that. Because
Yeah.
after the bye week, I think that's around when the trade deadline is. Maybe a week or
Hmm.
two after that, but that'd be just around what the Colts game, uh, Titans game somewhere around there,
Hmm.
but. That starts your road stretch too. Your tough road stretch
Hmm.
with the Titans, the Jags, and then can't think of who else we play on the road. I think it's Bears, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's Bears. So Titans, Jags, Bears. Three road games. Not pushover opponents. So I think if you just stay the course with Darnold, you'll be just fine.
Yeah, like I said, we'll just have to see, but it's definitely possible with Sam Darnold. This is the best system he's got around him now that he's ever seen. Um, but like I said, we were talking about it earlier. If we get that 2022 Sam Darnold that kind of finished out the season, almost took him to the playoffs, I think that this team could definitely surprise some people if we're getting more, year one Carolina with Matt Rule and Carolina and Sam Darnold. I think this could be a long season for the Vikings. So I think this season will definitely go as far as Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy would take them.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, well, it'll be a fun ride. It'll be a fun ride. Like a lot of people say, it's going to be a free space year, like on a bingo card. Basically what that's saying is if you go 5-12, it really won't matter because you're getting a great draft pick. Set up yourself for 2025. If you go 12-5, great. You make the playoffs. You make a deep playoff run. Awesome. You're a top contender already. Going into 2025, just build upon that. So you could go either way, honestly. So yeah, it'll be a super fun ride. Just take it as it is. Don't expect too much. Don't expect too little either. I think it'll be super fun, especially McCarthy's development. A lot of superstars on that defense. You got Dallas Turner. You got a good edge rusher rotation in there. Corners will be very interesting. So it looks like my light died. So yeah, it'll be a fun ride.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said earlier, it's kind of like that free year essentially. Like I said, when people try to come on our lives and say the Vikings are going to go 4-13 or win 3 games, it's
Everybody
like,
would have to be hurt for that to happen.
well, yeah, and the funnier thing is like they think like we want to take offense to it. It's like, we're getting a top pick with a team that's got a solid foundation roster wise, or if they do well, like you said, great. I don't think that this year I don't think any Vikings fan would be disappointed with this upcoming season. You know, I guess I don't see a scenario where, you know, things really go bad unless, some major injuries happen. But, obviously we don't want that to happen, or hopefully nobody wishes upon them for that. But
Yep.
this is a building year, and see where they're going to go from there, and hopefully they press the right buttons, and I trust Kevin O'Connell to lead us to that hopefully that Lombardi Trophy down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll happen sooner than a lot of people think. I think it'll happen within the next 5 years if they build everything right.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Yeah, if you have anything else you would like to talk about, we can talk about that. Other than that, I got nothing else for you guys.
Yeah, I'm unless there's any other comments or anything.
Let's see. YouTube viewers 0. We got 25 in and out on Twitter. So, yeah, other than that, we'll go from there. Our next live or next episode will be Madden rankings on defense.
Yep.
Is that about right? So,
yeah,
we'll do defense and special teams. We'll kind of add those in together.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, yeah, other than that, that's what we got for you guys today. Thank you guys for checking in, watching, especially on TikTok. I know you guys don't get to see the beautiful screen like we do. Make sure you guys go check out on YouTube, 612 Vikings, as long as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and then on Twitter at 612 Vikings. Make sure you guys go follow us there for all your Vikings news, takes, entertainment, everything under the sun. So, yeah, thank you, Drew, for joining me tonight, and we'll go from there. Have a good night, you guys.
Yep, see ya.